All right. It's time for a What's New episode, everyone. Is it possible to reconcile with your father after he literally used your body to kill a bunch of people and called your mother a pet? What's new in the fantasy world of the inheritance cycle? And are we excited to web sling through New York City again? We'll be discussing all of this and more in today's episode of What's New. I'm your host, Christian Ashley, and I am, of course, joined by James Dillon. How you doing, James?
I am doing super well. Glad to be here.
And in fact, I'm sure some of you may know this already, but James has just gone through a wonderful landmark in life as he flashes the ring, the bling in front of everyone else. James, how you feeling? How's married life?
Married life is going great. She's always here now, so that's a blessing. And we're adjusting. We're learning some rhythms. But we had a super great honeymoon. And actually, my what's new topic for tonight is what I brought with me on the plane. So that's my what's new tonight. So I'm excited to share my honeymoon read with everyone this evening.
Perfect. Yeah, and I was so excited to talk about that. I forgot to say, this is Systematic Geekology. We are the priests of the geeks. And you know what, Christian, James, we're here for you tonight. We're here to have fun. And in order to do that, we're going to start with, of course, our lightning round. All right, I'll go first. And one thing I should mention, that we were supposed to have other topics tonight. Nick was supposed to join us, and unfortunately, he wasn't able to come. He double booked himself. You know, one of those things that just kind of happens when you're a busy man doing important things. You know, sometimes you can't show up whenever you want to. So, just show some love to Nick. Tell him how much you love him in the comments below. And we'll go, like I said, into our lightning round proper. And I'm going to start, of course, with my boy, Ultraman Blazar. We are about 4 or 5 episodes away from the finale of this, and I am loving this show so much. James, I don't know, are you an Ultraman guy at all? Do you know what's going on here?
No, I have no idea, but I know Ultraman's sort of like the OG, like anime, manga, like hero, or one of them.
Yeah, there has been an anime before. He started off live action, kind of that big tokusatsu thing of like, people in suits fighting each other. Him, Kamen Rider, and some of the kaiju films as well with Godzilla. This Ultraman Blazar is the newest one in like 20, 30 some different shows. I lose track sometimes. I've seen them all, but I'm loving this one so much. Like, I've talked on a couple other What's News about it. This gives him because all Ultramen are different, James, in different shows. Blazar has a bit of a different personality than everyone else. He's kind of like a hunter, as well, but also kind of a person who's like gets really hyped in the fights, like just jumps up and down in celebration when he does a really cool move or something like that. It's a lot of fun because like they don't speak when they're in the ultra form. It's typically the ultra alien, bonded with a human, and human normally lives his life. Then he'll appear as Ultraman for a little bit, kind of like your older Captain Marvel, with Rick Jones would be in the negative zone sometimes, or it would be Marvel himself. Kind of that gist, but really loving Ultraman Blazar. James, your topic.
My topic for our lightning round this evening is the new Mario Brothers game that just came out, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, which has been a delightful a way to spend some time over the past month for me. And it's been a while since I've played a platformer like that, and it's fun to jump back into that world. It's very easily digestible. I mean, you can most levels take 5 to 10 minutes if you're not a speedrunner like me. And so it's something that's really easy to pick up, put down. The plot, it's a Mario game, so the plot is super simple. You already know the plot. And it introduces a couple of new power-ups, including Elephant Mario, which is super fun to play as. And don't want to give too much away, but definitely worth your time if you're looking for a fun game that's easy to pick up, put down, and not get lost in for hours. And it's also the debut of the new voice actor for Mario. So check that out. I couldn't tell much of a difference, but maybe some of you Mario enthusiasts can.
Did his older voice actor retire?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Charles Martinet. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was trying to remember his name. Couldn't remember it for the life of me. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. The new actor is Kevin Afghani.
Okay.
There you go.
Excellent. So next up for our lightning round is, got to keep with the giant monster theme, Monarch Legacy of Monsters. James, have you been checking this out at all? You know what's going on?
I have not. I've heard about it, but please
Okay.
tell us more.
This is a spinoff of, the Godzilla films and, the Monarch verse. They're one of the different ones they're trying to give a name for it. So the Godzilla 2014 versus Kong, all that. So our series here kind of takes place. We've seen the Big G a couple times, but for the most part, he's kind of been a figure in the background. It's mostly around the idea of this a young woman who, during the events of the 2014 film, when Godzilla smashes through the Golden Gate Bridge, if I remember correctly, she was on a school bus in there. She was a teacher, tried to get her students out, managed to get a couple, but a lot of them didn't make it. And so she's dealing with a lot of PTSD involving, kaiju, and come to find out her father has recently died, and he had a secret family in Japan, and she's meeting her new half brother there, trying to figure out, oh, well, he was researching these kaiju. What's this about our family? Oh no, are we tied in some way to Monarch, the organization that's trying to track these guys down? So we're about 3 episodes in. It's really fun. Like, as someone who doesn't really care about the human parts of the Godzilla franchise, I'm like, just show me Godzilla beating the crap out of a giant monster in another suit. This is actually pretty well done for the most part.
Oh, interesting. Great.
All right. So you want to move on to our main topics?
Yes. Oh, here we go.
Let's do it. Now, that tells me you've been watching.
I've been following along. Yeah, I've been hitting the highlights.
Okay. So Invincible, the second season, has kind of been split into 2 different parts. The first 4 episodes have already been released, and they're going to release 4 more next year. James, take it away, a little bit of some of the summary of what's been going on here, and I'll help you back you up.
Ooh, you want to take it from me.
Okay.
So Invincible it is back after the super huge cliffhanger at the end of season 1, where Invincible confronts his father, Omni-Man, and is dealing with the trauma of that and sort of the collective trauma of the whole Earth, like losing its protector and being betrayed. And he is now, in the most recent episode, has followed a summons to a different planet. I can't remember the name of it. Christian, you can supplement, but
I think it's like Thraxia or something like that. They're called Thraxans to people.
Right. And it turns out Omni-Man is there and has used the call to get Mark there to try and reconcile somewhat. So, Christian, what's your take? You fill that in.
Oh yeah. This has been filling in a lot of very fun parts. Now, I have not read the comics themselves. I know a little bit of what happens just, from spoilers, that I don't really particularly care about spoilers anyway. So all they do is enhance my hype for what I'm about to watch. Like, things are going to get crazy from here, guys. Like, in a great show, like, things are going to continue being great. So at this point, like, Mark and his mom, Debbie, I think is her name.
Oh yeah. I think so.
Yeah. Are both like dealing with the sense of, we had a husband, we had a father for 20 some years, and he wasn't the person we thought he was. He was someone completely different. And now they're both wrestling, with their grief, and because he's not dead, but it feels like he's gone. And like they're mourning someone they thought they knew, someone they wished they knew better, and all the trauma that comes with that. Like, we're getting some more from the other superheroes as well, especially Adam Eve, like learning like, hey, I've got this really cool ability, but if I don't apply it correctly, well, maybe there was a reason the city never gave, an option for a building to be planted here or a park to be planted here. It's like, oh no, in fact, that ground is kind of unstable and I got a lot of people killed. And then you've got the rest of the heroes like trying to become a different unit. Like, the old Guardians of the Globe are dead and they're like failures compared to them in their own minds. And then you have the threat of the Viltrumites coming in. Like, how many of them are out there? Like, why haven't they attacked Earth yet? Why do they care so much about interbreeding with us? Why would Nolan create Mark with his wife to, make a hybrid child? All these questions are brought up. It's a lot of fun. I'm loving this show, man.
Yeah, it seems it's super fun. I watched the first episode just for funsies with my wife last night, and she did not like it so much. She was into it. She was into it until the very end.
Yeah.
Episode 1, and the very end of episode 1 are when the wheels start coming off, and this show shows let's just say it shows its guts. and Nicole, my wife, did not have the stomach for it.
That's perfectly fine. Those aren't my favorite thing in the world. Like I'm not a it's not a body horror kind of thing. It's more of a like seeing the guts and everything exposed.
Yes.
Like let's just say some people bite it in some very gruesome ways in the show. So if that's something you're not comfortable about, definitely avoid. Like
Trigger
this
warning
isn't
for
for
that.
everyone.
And
Yeah.
it's sad to me because I feel like this show doesn't even like sometimes that gore, guts, whatever gets employed as a way to like draw people in. But this show doesn't need it because the writing is so great.
Oh yes.
And the themes it explores are so great. So even if you don't have a stomach for it, worth checking out the highlights. I'm sure someone out there on the internet has made a version or a cut of the show.
The clean cut.
Yeah, the clean cut of the show. I'm sure it exists on the internet. I don't know this, but I'm just a conjecture. It's out there.
I wouldn't be surprised. Now this is not a deconstruction of like the superhero genre, but like there are definitely some things like you'll notice some characters like a Marvel pastiche or a DC pastiche, and you go, okay, I see where you get your inspiration from. Like the Guardians of the Globe are basically the Justice League of America. Plenty of others like Damien Dark or whatever his name is. The guy is basically Demon from DC. Plenty of others like Mark
There's
kind
a
of has
Flash. Yeah.
yeah. Omni-Man is basically Superman, but evil. And before that became a very terrible trope that has been abused by too many people. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. But like we get to Omni-Man himself in this show. And that's something that a lot of people, it's hard to forgive someone like that. It's hard to think they deserve forgiveness. Well, guess what? No one does. That's kind of the point of this whole thing. But for Omni-Man himself, like we watch him deal with this new feeling of guilt for what he's done to his family, to the people of Earth. And it's like, we get that great scene where the Viltrumites attack Thraxans, and he's like, and they're dead. And it's like, why do I care about these people? I shouldn't care. I'm above them. And yet there's something, humanity has infected him a little bit. His family has infected him with this idea of loving other people, protecting them, wanting better for them. And due to his culture, he's not ready for it. But like, do you think, is it possible for Omni-Man to be redeemed, James?
There are a lot of interesting questions here just around redemption as a theme in general. Is redemption a carte blanche? I mean, do you just get to come back into the fold like nothing ever happened? And that might be possible for Jesus. A lot more difficult for us who lack the divinity of Christ, I think, to do that. So I think there is probably redemption out there for Omni-Man in some way, shape, or form. And I mean, this is the one of the most live questions I think of the show because Omni-Man is such a compelling character. His relationship with Invincible, his son Mark, is so it's so complicated, and it makes you want to come back and figure out what's going to happen. Omni-Man's one of those characters. As I watch the show, I want him to be redeemed, even though he's done some terrible, terrible, awful things because of his relationship with his son. Like I want to believe there's a chance for him to sort of figure that out. Of course, redemption, I think, has to come hand in hand with accountability.
Yes.
But I think there's a chance at least. What about you?
No, well said. Like, it's one of those things like he was been on Earth like for false pretenses for 20 years protecting people.
Yeah.
Like he stopped that giant monster from rampaging through the city. He stopped a supervillain from taking over the world.
Right.
Those were all good things, but like what was the ultimate goal behind it was probably this eugenicist kind of feeling of can we, create our basically Saiyans for this, like in a very Vegeta kind of sense of he hasn't gone full native like Vegeta ultimately does, but then his reactions with his family, like we want him to reconcile with them because all the time he spent with them, like did he actually mean it when he called his wife a pet? Did he actually mean like, no, I was only here so I could see you develop powers and now I have to do this? And it's all over the place, but also we see the way he treats the Thraxans. these, I'm fairly certain that's their name. I'd have to look it up. This bug people, this race, and the wacky hijinks he gets up with them because they have a very short amount of time. He's basically become their god emperor in like the span of a couple months, to the point where, spoilers, he has a child with one of them. How the heck the biology behind that works, who knows? I'm not going to question it. I'm not going to think about it. It
You don't think
happens.
it
Yeah,
happens.
Mark has a half brother now.
Purple.
Yeah, purple. But like, to that point of, is it possible for him to be redeemed? I think it is, because he's still alive.
Right.
I mean, the way I look at, I know there are very different opinions on this show. We did have that episode on hell a while back. Like, when I look at that, it's like, hey, you have your entire life to get right with God. You die. I think you're done after that point. But I don't want to say like that's the only way you can ever think about that. As much as I myself think that's the only way. Like, what is your point of view on that, real quick?
Oh, my point of view on that.
Get real spicy.
Getting real spicy tonight. Ultimate redemption, final redemption. Oh man, did not anticipate this. My theology here is I don't know. I
Fair enough.
know I know what Scripture says, and you
Mm-hmm.
can't get around what Scripture says. The language of judgment and accountability is throughout Scripture. It's clear, but what we also see, I think, throughout Scripture is a God who is merciful, a God who loves, and a God who seeks the redemption for all, who wants all to be saved. And so my answer to this is I don't know. I don't know, and I think that's that's a cop out, and I'm okay with it being cop
No,
out. But
I,
it's my hope that there's something going on larger than what I can wrap my brain around.
I, I don't think it's a cop out at all. That's something we're all going to have to come to the point of, what do I actually think about this? Is it what my parents said it was? Is it what my old pastor said it was?
Yeah.
What do I think when it comes on this thing? And like, I kind of stayed where I started from the beginning, but I had to go through a journey of like, do I legitimately think this is a thing?
Yeah.
Like, how could a loving God allow this to happen? Or do I come to the point of, well, a loving God has given us choices, many choices beyond what we deserve. So when someone
There you
says
go.
no to him,
Yeah.
like, and they say no till the end,
Yeah.
well, what's he to do? Override their free will? And I'm a big free will and predestination guy. However the heck that works, I don't know. That's one of the things we're all wrestling through. We're all thinking through these problems,
Yeah.
and we're not gonna know until it's the end and we're there with him.
Right. So I think the language of judgment and accountability is true as Scripture expresses it. And for me, that's always what I'm gonna teach and preach, and that's hard. But also, we see mercy and we see love, and so how those two things go together, I don't know the mechanics of fully. And so what I will always say is, you got to get right. And yeah, you got to get right, because not just because of the eternal salvation question, right? But you got to get right because of your life will be better right here, right now, and that's what God's heart is for each of us.
And for the impact you have on the people around you too.
Correct. Right.
A lot
Correct.
better
For
to
our
get right
world,
now.
For
Yeah.
our world, right. Yeah.
So wasn't expecting to get there either tonight. It just kind of happened as I was like talking. It's like, oh, I should ask him that. So
But, I mean, it's an interesting question though in the context of the show, right? Because Mark is having this coming of age, like trying to figure out who he's going to be. His identity as a superhero is how the show starts off before it sort of gets real dark. But is who he is he going to be a Viltrumite? The cliffhanger of this second season that just stopped was, the one of the Viltrumites comes down and captures his father, carts him off, and says he's going to be executed. And now, Mark, you have his mission. You are now stepping into this to take up the mantle. And how is Mark gonna process that? Is he gonna make it his own? Is he gonna stay true to who he was before? How is he gonna go through that? And from what I know about Invincible, there's a lot of that sort of dialogue and discourse to come, I think.
yeah, I'm looking forward to this. So we have other topics to discuss tonight. For the sake of time, how would you rate this half season so far?
Ooh, I'd give it 8.59. I mean, it's up there. It's pretty good
Yeah.
in terms of writing and pace and things like that.
Yeah, I'm stuck between like a 9 and a 9.5 myself. I'm really enjoying this. Like the
Yeah.
animation is stellar, the voice acting is incredible, the story is spectacular.
Yeah.
Love Invincible so much.
Yeah.
But go
This
ahead.
show is going to struggle with pace, I think, as it goes forward, because I think the scope expands really drastically
Yes.
in what is to come. But
They're probably going to have to do more episodes per season,
yeah, I think
which is a good thing.
yeah.
All right.
And they
But
said season 3 is not going to be as long of a wait.
oh, that's even better.
Yeah.
Because that wait between these last ones, ooh, it was rough.
It was rough. Yeah. It was rough.
But for you, your topic for the night is the newest book in the inheritance cycle, which is Murtagh, shown on screen here by our lovely Vanna White, James. Is okay. I'm way behind. It has been so long since I've picked up a book in
Yeah.
this series. Like from what I understand, this is a sequel after what was the last one? The fourth one?
It was called Inheritance. The fourth one was
Thank
called
you.
Inheritance.
Okay. Yes.
So yeah,
So lay it
yeah.
on me.
So this book is was not expected. So when Inheritance ended, all the rhetoric was the book is sort of closed. We have reached the point of completion. If you don't remember how that book ends, big spoiler alert: the sort of the final enemy is defeated, and Aragon wonders. Aragon's the protagonist of the series. Wonders, okay, what is next for me? How do I fit here? What is my role going to be? And he ultimately ends up moving off sort of the continent and becoming to train the next generation of dragon riders. There's dragons, as you maybe would tell from the book. In the series is kind of what it's all about. But he trains them in a new continent because of the geopolitics of, well, where's our home base going to be? How's that going to benefit or detriment whoever is around me? So it's a really interesting. I read the end of the fourth book before I read this one, just to sort of get reacclimated. And so this one picks up around sort of a really morally gray character in the series, Murtagh. And Murtagh is a very literally tortured character throughout the inheritance cycle. He's in it from the first book. He is one of Aragon's companions. There's some twists and turns along the way, and they move from friends to enemies, but there's still an undercurrent of Aragon wanting to redeem this guy, wanting this guy to find redemption. He ends up becoming a dragon rider very unexpectedly. In a twist throughout the series. So spoiler there. But this book picks up and centers just on this character. Aragon is not present in this book. Of course, he's referenced. It picks up about a year or two after the end of that series. And what Christopher Paolini, the author of the series, has said is this is not book number 5. This is book like 4B. And book 5 is what will come after this. So this picks up on him. He's sort of in a self-imposed exile. Right at the end of the series, he finds a little bit of redemption, but has done some terrible things along the way. There was some basically mind control happening, and he was forced to do some things that he did not want to do. And is struggling with that. Is sort of in a self-imposed exile. At the end of the book, he is going to exile, and he is told by one of the characters, they've sort of invoked an ancient dragon sage to help them defeat this threat. He is told, if you encounter X, Y, or Z issue in your travels, do not search out this thing. Do not go here. If you sense this is happening, don't go. Run away. And so, of course, this book, he does find one of those places, and he does go on to poke the bear for the right reasons. He senses it's a threat. And so what unfolds across the book is really an opening up of this world again to a new set of stories. There's a threat that looms that's discovered in this book that is bigger than the threat of the inheritance cycle, and is potentially behind the original threat of the inheritance cycle. And for me, I love this book because First of all, there's a lot of it. It's a thick boy. It's like 600, 700 pages, and it's easy to read. You can fly through it. This series for me was awesome as a kid because I mean this is derivative of the Lord of the Rings, and he's admitted that the author has, but he sort of creates his own language, and there's a fun magic system in this book, and gets you thinking about language in some creative ways. But this character and his dragon in the main series undergo literal years of torture and manipulation and mind control. And so this book is Paolini now more as an adult. He wrote Aragon when he was 19.
Yep.
So he wrote those books super young. So he's now older. And this book deals with themes of trauma and anxiety and mental health and how you sort of process and work through past trauma on your way to redemption, how you can sort of work through and become free of those things, even if they're still always going to be around. And so for me, that was the selling point of this book that really drew me in, was how this author sort of explored those topics in the middle of a story that was also really compelling, and you wanted to find out what was going to happen next. So
Excellent. Well, like I said, it's been forever since I've read. What was the last book that came out? Like 2011, 2012? Okay, yeah. It's been over a decade since I picked one up, so I'm just struggling to remember what happened. Like, how did you feel about the ending of Inheritance? Like, were you satisfied as a reader? Did you want more?
I didn't want it to end because I love it so much. I was biased, and I, when the first one came out, I remember picking up this book when I was like 11 or 12 years old, the first Aragon, and like just reading it through. When the last one came out, I was in college, and I like woke up super early to drive to the Walmart in the town over so I could like buy it first thing in the morning.
Excellent.
So I'm biased, but yeah, I wanted more. The way that the story ends is Aragon sort of finds a creative loophole that I didn't find compelling when I was in college, but now looking back on it and having a little bit more life experience and confronting some things in my own life that are not so fun, I find it a little bit more compelling.
Okay. Now you said a Murtagh is basically like a 4B in the series. Does it set up for a 5? Do you like have an idea of what things will happen there?
Yeah, it's set up for a 5.
Okay.
I have not heard that announcement. I don't think it's been formally announced. He's talked around it in some interviews.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's given himself some leeway, which is always smart. But yeah,
yes.
it's set up to where at the end of the book, Aragon is sort of notified of the threat in a way that if it is real and present, which it becomes clear that it is, he's gonna have to come back. Something's gonna have to happen.
Yeah. So I do remember he basically kind of set up like his own little like Jedi Order essentially, because Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, huge influences on Paolini. It's painfully obvious in the first book. He gets better over time, without relying on the tropes and like, hey, this is going to be our Obi-Wan figure and so on and so forth. Yeah, I do enjoy this series. Don't watch the movie. You're better off.
Don't watch the movie.
Just like there is no movie in Ba Sing Se, there is no Aragon movie at all. And I was trying to think of a name place, and I'm stuttering to find anything because it's not coming back to me. So I'm going to move on from that. Failed attempt at humor. You have anything else you want to add to Murtagh?
No. If you're a fan of the series, definitely pick up and read it. You don't have to have read the books to read this book. So if you just want to check it out on its own, you get enough in the introductory chapters to sort of make it still a compelling story. And I find the protagonist Murtagh to be super compelling. So it's complex. It's good. So yeah, check it out.
Was it Murtagh or Murtagh? I never can remember how to pronounce it correctly.
Well,
so you're handing a pronunciation guide?
Put the pronunciation guide in the back of the book. So let me make sure I'm reading it right. This is going to go on for too long.
Yeah, it's okay. Murtagh. Okay. Yeah, my pronunciations are always wrong whenever I just look at a word written down. So I'm used to failure in that regard. But that's why.
Let's say when you make up a language, I think you sound however you want to sound.
Fair enough. All right. So our next topic of discussion is one I am very big on, and that is Spider-Man 2. I completed the game a while back, 100%ed it, platinumed it, had an amazing, pun not intended time, amazing time with this game. James, you said before we started recording you hadn't got the chance to play either one of these. So do you care about spoilers at all?
No, go for it. Go for
Okay.
it.
So Spider-Man, the first game in 2018, I think it came out, was essentially setting himself up in this world, in this new alternate reality, setting up his relationship with Mary Jane, the two of them reconciling, Miles getting bitten by the other spider they had in that game, setting him up. Then Miles Morales, the game, came out, setting him up as his own hero, separate from Peter. Now Spider-Man 2, you fight as both of them at different parts of the story, and you can choose between them, in between missions, like, hey, I just completed the mission as Peter. Let me go swing around as Miles. Same thing with Miles, swing around as Peter.
You go back and forth.
Oh yeah, a ton of fun. There's the main crux of this is that Harry Osborn has come back into Peter's life. And this is after 2 or 3 years of them thinking that he was off in Europe getting special treatments. Come to find out, he wasn't in Europe. His dad had him in like this back to tank, essentially, where he had bonded the symbiote to Harry to try and heal the degenerative disease that he has. So he's able to walk around now because of the symbiote. However, in the course of the story, Kraven the Hunter comes into the city, almost kills Peter. Harry has found out he's Spider-Man at this point, gives him the symbiote instead to save his life. And now it views Peter as like the superior option of bonding with him. Okay. So Harry is like succumbing to his disease again, not being able to walk again. So it's setting up the huge conflict between the two of them. All while Miles is realizing, oh, Peter's kind of going off the edge here. The symbiote is affecting him. What do I do there? This story is amazing. I'm having a ton of fun. Like, it's kind of a cliche to say this. It makes you feel like you're Spider-Man. Well, because it is. It makes you feel like you're Spider-Man swinging through the city, seeing all these different Marvel landmarks as well. Not as many as in the first game. That's one of my gripes, is that there's not as much content as far as other superheroes as there were in the first game, outside of like there's one mission where the Black Cat steals the Wand of Watum from Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum, and Miles confronts her, gets it back, and Wong doesn't appear on screen, but like he magically teleports it away and leaves him a note. And that's about it. In the midst later on, very, very true. That later on in the game, Harry takes back the Venom symbiote, becomes Venom, and wreaks havoc through the city after killing Kraven the Hunter live in the middle of Times Square, like rips his head off screen, thank God. But there's a symbiote invasion and no one responds to it except for Miles and Peter. So it's kind of one of those things, like, one of the benefits of having a shared universe is that it's shared.
Yeah.
So no one else shows up. It's just one of those things, especially since Insomniac is also, the game studio behind us, is also making a Wolverine game.
Yeah,
I was expecting him to show up at some point in time. Maybe they're saving it for a DLC. I don't know. But it's just kind of one of those things. Like, I prefer that shared universe part. Like, not to say that Spider-Man can't just have his own contained stories. Yeah. Like, when I pick up an X-Men comic, I don't want every issue to be a guest star showing up, or, Daredevil or what have you. Like, I would like them to have their own solo adventures. But, that's a minor gripe compared to everything else.
Right.
Like, when it comes to the story's amazing. The combat's great. There's a very big difference between how, Peter handles fighting versus how Miles does with his Venom Blast. It is a wild ride. Now, let me just move on to our questions real quick. And one of the thing kind of brought up here is that Peter, his work-life balance is horrendous. As per usual with Spider-Man, it's just what he does.
Right. Yep.
You start off the game with him becoming a teacher for the first time for Miles' class.
Oh.
And the moment he does that, the Sandman comes through town, starts wreaking havoc, grows giant. He leaves to become Spider-Man, gets called by the principal who gave him the job, and gets fired because he left his students.
Yeah.
So, which makes sense, because obviously she doesn't know he's Spider-Man. You would hope that your teacher would protect the students like he's supposed to. But like, one of the things that's kind of brought up is here, how can Peter have that work-life balance? Like, is it even possible for us? Forget superheroics.
Right.
Can we have a healthy work-life balance? And if so, how can we, James?
When I find that answer, I will let you know. I think the trick to it is good boundaries, and it's a trick.
Yeah,
it's a trick. So and I feel like in Peter's situation, it's like someone should just pay him to be Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like he should be getting some money from somewhere. Like
Yeah.
he needs to start up a GoFundMe or something. Like he should not have to worry about the things that we normal humans have to worry about.
Oh, well, that's something that kind of you can bring up there too, and that pastoral work
Yeah,
compared to different work is
yeah,
like you're always on call,
yeah,
essentially.
absolutely.
Like, how easy is it to have that? As someone who may or may not be going there, I'm still figuring things out seminary wise. If that's where God wants me, like that's something that's in the back of my mind. Do I really want to be in a job where I can't have a moment to myself? It feels
Yeah.
like even though you can make it work, because I know pastors who do, but like,
Mhm.
and you're just starting off. I mean, you've been a youth pastor before, but like, what are you doing? What's your new role in the new church? I forgot to ask that before we
I'm
started.
still pastor of youth.
Okay,
Um,
yeah. So like, how do you handle that as best as possible?
yeah, especially I live in a town that's kind of small, and I work in a big church, and so every time I leave my front door, there is a high likelihood I'm going to see someone from my church. It
Yes.
happens. It happens more often than not, and so the switch flips, right? And the work, the pastor persona comes on, and that's not to say I'm faking it because it is who I am.
Yeah.
But you mind your P's and Q's and dot your I's and cross your T's a little bit more when you're in public, and because for many people that persona is the persona of the pastor is important for their faith, and that's a heavy responsibility. But you have to craft time intentionally to unplug and to get away. I think that's why the Lord gave us the Sabbath, and let us by example in taking Sabbath. That's God did that in creation. Jesus does that throughout his ministry. And talk about work-life balance. What about Jesus? He would probably laugh at us for asking that question.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's always going to be a trick. I think today our world, our culture forces us to move at a ever increasing pace, and it's like, when is it going to slow down? Why are we even like doing any of the things that we're doing? And so, crafting some time in your day, or at least in your week, to sort of take a step back and just, play this dumb video game or read a dumb book or listen to a great podcast
Yeah. Yeah.
or stream.
Recommend that one.
Yeah, definitely recommend that one. Is good for your soul. It's good for your soul. So work-life balance. I mean, the gift, and it can even be a spiritual discipline of saying no. It's beyond me. I'm not Jesus. I can't do it all.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to burn myself out, then what good am I going to be in my ministry or in my job or whatever that is?
And I think too, it's important when we go to Exodus and see how Moses really poorly handled the situation. It's like taking care of everything, like wanting to do a good thing,
Mm.
but Jethro, his father-in-law, like calls him out. It's like, hey, you're just a dude.
Yeah.
You can't do this all by yourself. You need other people you can trust, and that takes work. In that pastoral position, forgetting other things for a second, like that takes a lot of work of trusting people, figuring out, okay, I can leave them to do their own thing without like them all. I'm done forever. Unless I choose to look at a word, I don't have to care.
Good for you. You made it through the ordeal. The great ordeal.
And you know what? The Hebrew, Greek, amazing, beautiful languages. I'm just dumb when it comes to studying them and understanding them.
Part of the brain, man. It's hard.
Yeah. But if I want to be a good student, if I needed to be a good student, well, I would spend the time away, and I can't do it all in one session. Like it's like I did nothing at all. If I spend 2 hours reading Greek and then I go off to do something else and I come back later on the next day and like, what did I do yesterday? Well, that's not healthy. I need to figure out, okay, well, let's do it in these 30-minute sessions spaced out over a day. And, I'll go play Kingdom Hearts, or, I'll watch this new horror movie that's just terrible and awful because I'm a bad person who has way too much time on his hands. And that's easy for me as a student. Like for those of you out there who are students, like that's something you need to figure out. Like when should I allot time to this? When I obviously always go to class, but like when after class do I spend time studying? When do I spend time with friends, church, what have you? I mean, as someone who doesn't like planning things out, you got to plan things out a little better
Yeah.
and say, like, you don't have to have everything down to the dot. You don't have to be the clock king. Just have an idea of how to get stuff done.
And make
Anything else you want to
sure,
add to that?
yeah, make sure in that calculation, you gotta make some time for God, and
Oh, yes.
that's in your work life or that's in your school life or whatever. I know the times when I have been really intentional about plugging in and getting in scripture and just praying have been some of the most collected times in my life. I'm not always there. I don't always make time. We're all a work in progress, but when you can do it, I think things start to slow down. Things start to make a little bit more sense, and you know, no better use of your time.
All
Priorities.
right. Yeah, absolutely. So, last question for this bit. One of the major things that's kind of brought up in the story is that Harry Osborn and Peter are working together. He gives them a new job, working with him to, like, make the world a better place. Like, there was one thing in this reality, like his mom was super into, philanthropy and stuff like that. So using his dad's money, Harry is trying to heal the world. That's a phrase that's repeated over and over again.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, you and I don't come from means unless you're hiding something from me.
No means.
Yeah, no millions of means from you.
No millions of means.
Okay. Yeah. So we can't use our money that way, like as much as we can still use money, obviously, but not in the same way that someone like Harry Osborn can in this universe. But like, what are the best and most practical ways that we can heal the world? And I know that's a very large question I just asked.
Ooh, yeah, no kidding. How can we heal the world? I think first and foremost, first and foremost for me, it goes back to that work-life balance question. Like, when are you tapping in and resting and taking care of yourself and minding and investing in your relationship with God? Because if you're not doing that, right, like, you're not going to be doing effective ministry. And I use the word ministry very broadly, thinking that, like, what I do as a pastor is ministry for sure, but like what my wife does as a data manager is ministry. Like, her impact that she makes in that company, the impact that company makes in the world, it's all connected for me, and it's all, I think, it, bit by bit, as we sort of absorb our connection, or Jesus' teachings and our connection with God, and put that on display. I think that's how we begin to heal the world. It's little by little, it's bit by bit, and it's slow progress. And if we can get religious leaders to maybe figure that out, and model that holistically,
Yes.
we might be in a good place. So it's always a work in progress.
No,
What about you,
yeah,
Christian? What do you
I agree completely. You've got to start with yourself first, and then you've got to figure out what your limits are. Like, I bring up money. Money is a huge factor, obviously. Like, we all need, support to get the things done in our lives, to afford food, housing, so on and so forth.
for sure?
So what can I do with that money? Now, obviously, I'm in seminary. I need to spend that money on groceries and paying off all my classes so that they don't kick me out. So it is not financially responsible of me to go to some place like Compassion International and say, hey, whatever the month per payment is for this child that lives overseas, I want to pay for them. That's a good thing in your heart to want that. And I know plenty of people who do. And Compassion is just like one example of that. There are plenty of other Christian organizations that do similar things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not responsible of me, because what happens if I do this for 2 or 3 months and I go, oh man, I couldn't take care of that child like I thought I could. Well, what's that child going to think? Oh, well, people are just going to give up on me, all this mess. Same thing. It's like, I have this much time. I can volunteer somewhere.
Right.
And you find, well, maybe I don't have that time.
Mm-hmm.
And you've left those kids or those people behind. And you go, well, thanks for showing up, I guess. That's not an effective use of our time. It's not the most practical way. It's like, okay, let's do an honest assessment of myself, where I'm at, and what I'm capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be like just starting at church and figuring out, hey, like, where can I volunteer?
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be plenty of things that I'm not good at that I learn I'm not good at because I did them at church.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, hey, this wasn't for me. I'm not a greeter. I can't handle, you know, kids from this range teaching them because it's just not intellectually stimulating to me. It's not fair to them, but I can handle like middle school and above. That's something I had to learn. So like there'll be failures along the way, but do it in a respectful manner, a responsible manner. And I think a lot of things will be better, and start small. Like Jesus didn't say, go to, the Han Empire. He said, Jerusalem, Judea and Samaria, then the ends of the earth.
Right.
That's what we have to do.
Yeah, for sure. Start small, grow large. And part of that, like you said, is discerning who you are, who you're created to be, and how God is calling you. Right? Like we all share a call to join in that mission, but that looks different for each of us.
Yes.
Where's our place? What's our role? How can we bring who we are and who God has made us to be into that work of healing the world? If we can get everyone on that same page, if we can sort of learn to get out of our own way, right, the flesh that works in us, to use the language of the New Testament, discern what is the will of God, what is building us up, what is tearing us down. We'll be on the way. But it's hard, and that's why the world's still a hot mess.
You have anything else you want to add for that before we move on? Okay, before I rate and go ahead.
Go.
Okay, yeah. Before I rate and review for Spider-Man 2, I forgot to ask you what your review was for Murtag.
My review of Murtag. I'm gonna give this. I don't give 10s very often. I'm not gonna give this 10. I'm a hard grader. I'm gonna give this a solid 8.5.
Okay.
I thought the writing was good. I thought it explored some good themes. There were times when it did feel like we were lingering here a little bit too long. So a little bit of pacing issue for me, but I think it was fun. And it reintroduces the world. It sets up what's next. And so for this character, as a character study, it was a really fun book. So,
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now on to Spider-Man 2. Like I said, had a fun time with this game. I have my gripes. There are more than I mentioned, but like at the end of the day, did I spend my money wisely on this game? Did I have a ton of fun? Absolutely yes. This is like a 9. Yeah, I'll say a solid 9 for all the gripes I do have. But man, guys, if you haven't played these games, play these games. They're a ton of fun. I'm looking forward to the DLC whenever that releases. It's just a grand old time.
Yeah. The first Spider-Man in this series, it was like consistently rated as like one of the best games.
Oh, ever. Absolutely.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, this is a great way to get to introduce like the concepts behind the character. If you want to know more about Miles too, like Miles Morales is a great game as well. It's not as good as the other ones, but it's still it's a great game for him to like be on his own man and all this. Love the series overall. So with that, James, out of the 3 that we had here, what is your top recommendation?
My top recommendation out of all of these. I'm probably going to have to go out of the 3 we've talked about with probably with Invincible.
Okay.
And that's just because for me, it's new. I know it's been around for a while and the comics have been done for like ever. But for me, it's new. I'm really super hooked into it right now. And it's ongoing. So I'm almost always going to pick one that's one that's ongoing. But I am excited to see what's next. And I think a little bit more hooked into it than I am for Murtag right now. And I haven't played Spider-Man.
Okay. Yeah, I'll second Invincible. Like, love Spider-Man. Obviously, he's my favorite character. He's why he's my avatar. But, like, Invincible, what's going on right now, I'm loving what they're doing. I mean, I can't praise the animation enough. I can't praise the writing enough. It is amazing. It is spectacular. It's a lot of fun. Go watch Invincible if you got Amazon Prime. Also, as well, check out Monarch. It's not the best thing on this list, but it is a lot of fun for us Godzilla heads. Yeah. Like, love that series so much. So, listeners, thank you all for listening in today. We really appreciate all you do. Just if you get a chance, head to our website to see our shop, other episodes that the hosts are on. You can join us on Discord to check us out, see what we're talking about there as well. We got to see a really nice photo of James and Will at the wedding, but I think that was for hosts only. So maybe you could become a host and see that one day. But for now, we'll settle for just having you in the Discord. If you get a chance to, just check out our Patreon. See if you want to, if you really like us, you want to send money our way. You know, we're poor. We just can't do things without your help. We appreciate everyone who is a patron. But remember, we are all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests.